All right.
My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, eh, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another session of Focus on Liberia. I'm your co-host, Gabriel. I have in the studio with me, Jimmy. Jimmy,
Hey,
welcome to
Gabriel.
Focus on Liberia. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, man. I know you talking to us from Africa,
hmm hmm
and we're looking forward to kind of giving us an idea uh, what what Liberia has achieved this going year. What was the report?
hmm
See if we move the needle any bit, and
hmm
we're looking forward to a prosperous new year and see what is in the making for us next year.
Yeah, thank you. I think Flomo just joined. Flomos, we just joined, so
Okay.
welcome back. I know we missed you the last probably show or probably two, but it's good to have you back.
Oh, thank you, man. It's good to be back,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
good.
Jimmy, how you doing, man? Merry
Not
Christmas,
so
Happy New
bad.
Year to all of you, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Happy New Year. Wish you the same, man. We're gonna make it. This year gonna be a big year for us, right?
Oh, yeah. We hoping so, man.
Yeah, so again, thank you guys, wherever you guys are watching from, thank you. Uh, bring your comments, questions, and most importantly, your perspective. And hopefully let's keep this short. Maybe we can do it within an hour or less. But
Okay.
we're at the year end, so we're gonna talk about the year in review. So everything that happened in 2023 as it relates to Liberia from an economic standpoint. I know there's a lot that happened, um, but I don't think we will have enough time to cover everything that happened. So we just want to pick or handpick a few and talk about them and maybe do an abstract overview of everything else. So um, I am reporting from Accra. Uh, so I don't. I will just be facilitating, so you guys can be doing. You guys uh can do the talking. I don't have a lot. I didn't plan for this, so I'll be doing I will facilitate, and you guys can do the talking. But without further ado, there's few things we want to talk about. Um, I know, as I said earlier, there's a lot that happened. But before we get into that, do you guys have any opening thoughts in terms of as it relate to Liberia or anything at all?
Oh, let me start over.
Overview. It could be overview. You can look. You can take it from any angle.
Oh, well, the year has already come to an end. We got uh, less than 2 days to be in 2024. Uh,
Hmm.
it is at which point in time the new government are going to be taking office, and
Hmm.
I want to like bring people to understand that leadership is not a joke.
Hmm.
Uh, Leadership is a very, very serious and a strategic thing.
Hmm.
You know, there's a whole lot that's expected of Ambassador Bwaka's government, a whole lot. And when Senator elect Amara Khan made a statement and say Liberians should manage their expectation. Um,
Hmm.
from my point of understanding, I want to believe that he might have been saying it in the right direction.
Hmm.
That is to say that you expect a whole lot from this government. I want you to understand that it's not going to come just right away. We're
Hmm.
going to work on accomplishing your expectation and bringing your expectation to reality. But
Right.
in so doing, please give the new government a chance to work. 100 days is not enough.
Hmm.
365 days is not enough. Two
Uh-huh.
years is not enough. 3 years is not enough to get your expectation to come to fulfillment. So that's why I believe you're saying manage your expectation because it's not easy.
Hmm.
It's a new government starting from scratch, going to be managing the economy from all aspect of life. So, let's give it an open mind, Liberian people. Let's give it an open mind, an
Hmm.
open thought, open conversation, and let's give the new government the opportunity to work. You know,
Hmm.
so manage your expectation or be relaxed or don't expect too much because it's like a baby. The baby was born, the
Hmm.
baby got to start crying, the baby
Hmm.
got to start to stand before the baby begins to walk. So that's how
Okay.
government is. You don't expect for government to come in office and immediately start to fulfill all of your agenda, all of your thoughts, all of your wishes,
Hmm.
all of your expectations. You don't expect the government to begin to fulfill it. It's government is strategic.
Hmm.
Okay, government has priorities. So, my encouragement to Ambassador Barker's government, they should act in order of priorities, in order
Hmm.
of the Liberian people's priority. You know,
Yeah.
let's work together in order of priorities. Whatever
Okay.
is first on the agenda, whatever
Right.
you think, whatever Ambassador Barker's government think is immediate to the Liberian people, that should be tackled with immediate effect. You know,
Perfect.
because
Perfect.
the majority carries the rules.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my overview. Yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy. Any overview? As I said, there's a lot that has happened this year. Given also this is or was or is because we're still in 2023, an election year. So that kind of, I think that kind of, you know, muddy the water a little bit. That it took our eyes off of, the ball, if you want to say that, because everybody at the end of at the end of the year, everybody was focusing on the election, and we forgot about a lot of the economic things that were happening. But I would like to hear your overview thoughts about 2023 as a whole.
Okay. There are several indicators people use as a guide to try to
Uh-huh.
feel where the economy is. One of them is, you apply little macroeconomic performance indices,
Hmm.
like GDP.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, has the GDP indicates the sum of goods and services in the country, and if that is growing, it means you are making more products, you are providing more services.
Hmm.
Except for me, I'd like to extract or take away the extractive industries
Hmm.
from in that calculation, because you're the extra, even though you are earning revenue,
Hmm.
but are you turning it into actual products and services? And that is, I think, what we really should, how we really should guide ourselves.
Hmm.
But other things you look at is consumption.
Hmm.
How has our consumption grown? Are we still consuming the same things? And because consumption is so important to us, because if we are not growing or when we're consuming what we don't produce,
Hmm.
that means there is a egress of capital in the country, and
Correct.
you're not retaining your wealth in the country. So um, investment is another one. How much have we plowed back into the economy this going year? Do we see any industries have come up
Hmm.
or have expanded? Any businesses have registered, have been large and small? Have we seen any changes in that? And then, of course, the international trade. How has that gone? So, looking at those things, you will see that this year was not very much a change, and this is, I think,
Okay.
this is what pollinated the politics of this year.
Yeah.
People could not realize any difference in their lives,
Yeah.
and so just like my brother Flumo was saying,
Uh-huh.
the next administration, the Buakai administration, has to be very careful how they earmark what things they will do first,
Hmm.
because we have a saying, dry dog sweet, but what will be eaten in the meantime?
You eat though?
Yeah.
It's just a
No,
parable.
don't mind me.
So it is crucial. So Fumo's right. It is very, you have to make the people feel. Perception is
It's
huge, and
very
if you make
important.
the
Yeah.
people feel that their
Yeah.
lives are improving,
Yeah.
if you make them feel that way, then they will be patient and will give you confidence in you, and then they will buy into your program. So Connor's remark about they should manage, no, 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 the administration, the government, the legislature, the judge, they should manage people expectations, because people expectations are high. So you
Hmm.
have to perform so that they will get what they expect from you. So
Hmm.
it's really about them. I don't. I see them switching. No, 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 no. You telling me I should just wait, or just don't expect too much? That's not what Liberians want to hear.
Hmm.
Liberians want to hear, what are the first things you're going to do to improve their life. Then
Okay.
they can have patience. So it's
Okay.
really up to you to manage their expectations.
Perfect. I like how both of you open. I think one thing that as a common denominator that you guys talked about was the economy. Uh, you both talked about Mr. Conan's comment about managing expectation. Um, you know, I agree with both of you that instead of telling the citizen that they should manage their expectation, is the government that needs to, you know, elevate their priorities so that in as much that we need to manage our expectation, which is the citizens, within 6 months, we don't start putting the pressure on them that they too need to expedite their expectation, right? And I say this because, as I said, I'm reporting from Accra, and
Mhm.
the last time I was here was in 2000, I think 2003. I was little. I think I was about 15 or 16 years old when I left, and the level of, forget the level of development, the speed at which things happen. But I was in Liberia in 20 what is it, 2021, right? And there's this big difference, right? Right now it's about 8 p.m. here. You go on the road, there are people set up across the road selling all kinds of stuff, right? That tell like there's hunger, like what I call hunger to be better, to do better, right? There is that hunger. You don't have that right now. If I right now I can get up, I can leave this stage, go on the road and go buy food, right? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Any food I want, I can go on that road. Whether I want banku and fish or anything else, I can find it at. We don't have that in Liberia. By 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the place you go to find food will probably be maybe clubs or bars, not people on the side of the road selling food. So there's that level of hunger to be better that I don't see in Liberia. But nevertheless, we talk about economy, and all of those things contribute to the economy, right?
Yep.
We talked about, you guys talked about the economy in terms of managing our expectation and uh, what this uh, incoming administration should be expecting. Uh, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the this year, right? So this year we had a supposedly 4.5% growth in GDP, right? Now, and I think some of you may have alluded to some of that. Do you guys think we actually realized that 4% growth? Or even if we did, do you guys think it was actually felt across the economy overall with the average Liberian? You know, I want to hear your thoughts on that because it's one thing to have growth, right? And it is just from what I want to call a theoretical standpoint, but it's from not practical standpoint. It actually did not. It's not being. It wasn't felt. So, what do you guys think about the 4%, 4.5% growth that we supposedly had in 2023, or the economy as a whole?
You want to go, Jimmy?
Can you? I'm trying to unmute. Okay, okay, there you go. You can hear me clearly. All
Yep.
right.
Yes.
So, just quickly, what part of Accra are you in?
So I am in, what is it? Spintex. I think it's called Spintex.
Spintex.
Yeah.
I don't know that part of Accra.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
about ooh, 30 minutes away from the actual downtown, you know.
downtown Accra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
So
it near
how they
Tema?
got Central Morovia. So it's about, let's say if we were in Morovia, it would be about 30 minutes away from Central.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's near Tema or Dansoma, somewhere down there.
That's that, your guess is as good as mine. I've only been here. Yeah. I
Okay.
have no idea.
Yeah.
What is, yeah. But anyways, go ahead.
So just like I was alluding to earlier, GDP, as much as it is a well used measure throughout the world.
Hmm.
Uh, sorry about that.
No worries.
Um, I I believe especially for Liberia, we need to not use we need to extract certain things from GDP if we want to
Hmm.
get a true picture of where we are.
Yep.
Okay, if we want to, because if we just selling more of our minerals, if they're just selling more of our like an extractive industry, or we just selling more of our rubber, it doesn't give a fair picture of improvement in the economy. Um, we want to see number of jobs. That is a clear indicator of growth in the economy,
Hmm.
of growth in jobs. We want to see number of businesses open or closed. That is another indicator. We want to see how much money has been added to the banking system. You know,
Hmm.
there are other things we just have to use if we want to get a understanding of where our economy needs to improve and how we can
Hmm.
address it. Because growth without development has been an issue before.
Hmm.
If you remember, our economy in the early '60s, there
Yeah.
was immense growth.
Yeah.
There was immense growth, but you didn't see that with roads, institutions, schools, all those other aspects of development were not uh, adequately improved.
Right.
So we have to take a sober look at it, and I don't. I think, like I said, politically, you can tell that people didn't realize anything change in their lives. So, 2023, it was not that impressive from my standpoint. So, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kazali.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right, Jimmy. In terms of, so that was in the '60s, and we had, so, and you guys can correct me here if I'm wrong. We had 8 years of being the second highest or the second fastest growing economy in the world. 8 years in a row, the second highest. 8 years straight, right? To the point it attracted a lot of uh, people from around the world, such as people from the University of Columbia School of Economics, right? They wanted to understand, hey, what is this? Once you start growing at that level, I think it was about 8% or more. They want to know what was happening, right? What's contributing to this growth, and what was you know what matter for who is this country that is the second highest growing economy in the world. So it attracted a lot of attention, and I eventually what they realized was just, yes, a lot of it was propped up by aid, but also some of these, what do you call it, the LPMC and all these state-owned enterprises that we had were putting out a lot of resources that were generating a lot of revenues, but that those revenues were not being invested in hard infrastructure, like you said, the roads, the bridges, the airports, and all of these things. So that was one of the pitfall there. Uh, uh, Larry, welcome to the show. Glad you joined us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gentlemen. Running my little errands and stuff. I said, let me just
Eh,
make a quick pit stop on the show. It's the year-end show before I actually
Yeah.
head out again to finish the work that I have to do. But yeah, so glad to be here with you guys, man.
All right.
Welcome,
Perfect.
man.
All right.
Yeah.
Kezeli,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hear your. So as I said, we
Yeah.
we had 4.5% growth, in 2023, but I think what we realized is that that growth wasn't felt across the board. Some of it you can say, hey, Gabriel, you can look at the budget that was recast because that was shortfall. Should tell you. You can look at some of the hardship that the inflation is in the economy. That should tell you. This wasn't just in Liberia, but um, I want to hear your thoughts on this 4.5% growth that we've had in 2023. Do you think that was actually did we really achieve that growth from a practical standpoint? Practical meaning that this was something that most Liberian actually felt, they realized, or was this something that was just, on paper? Um,
You know,
yeah,
Gabriel and Jimmy and our big brother there. Let me say this clearly. We talking about the economy of Liberia, our home country, our motherland. Now, you, my question that I keep asking myself while we on the show is that what better does it do for the Liberian people If at all, we talking about the 4.5%. That the 4.5%, on my research, I realized it was just a projection. Or let's say,
Mm,
yeah, it's a projection
mm,
that was projected for 2023.
exactly. Yeah. Thank you for that.
So yes, it was projected for 2023. It was not. It's not like to see, oh, it was actually achieved. And I personally believe, from all economic prospect, it was never achieved. Why? Because how do you know that uh Liberia's GDP is growing? How do you know? You
Hmm.
know by its impartation in the life of the common people. You're gonna see all sector of the economy growing, from the banking sector to the local marketeer. You understand? You're
Hmm.
gonna see it in all areas of society. But the country is engulfed with severe poverty,
Hmm.
with severe poverty. So, from my own opinion, no, like this projected 4.5% for 2023 was never achieved. Why? Because the people did not feel any impartation of the economy. So whoever giving this kind of data to the World Bank,
Hmm.
they are only doing so they are only doing so to make the government look good. And these data are not collected from ordinary people. These data are collected by the same government and sent to the World Bank.
Hmm.
It's almost like I go in your home and I say, hey, I can do an interview. I start to ask you about, I mean, at some point in time, whoever I'm interviewing may not want to tell me the true happening of their home.
Hmm.
They're just going to give you the bright picture, that fake
Okay.
bright picture. So the people from the Ministry of Finance, people from government are the one are giving World Bank the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in
So
in
they are,
in in essence, they are, we should view them as, with a little bit of grain of salt or skepticism, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
And right.
if people go on the ground there to interview
Right.
the common people, the marketeer, our mothers, our
Right.
friends down there, the common people, poverty are engulf the nation. How can
Yeah.
poverty engulf the nation? And then, like I see, is the poverty rate is at a what the percent that I see that you sent me at a
Right here, 34 point
35.4 percent.
35.4%.
I,
Right.
I
Right.
now that rate, I can tell you, it's far beyond that.
Right.
Nobody got to tell you. You on the
Right.
ground, you go there, you see it. Nobody got to tell you. No way.
Perfect.
You
All right.
see how
Let
much you
me let me
spend
let me
back
yeah.
home. So poverty has engulfed the nation. There will be
Yeah.
no way you have people dying, no good health care, no good sanitation. Poverty is at a higher extent, and then you say, we ask the question whether the GDP, the expected GDP growth was achieved. It was never achieved because it
Okay.
has no impartation to the life of the common people.
Let me pose this question to Larry differently. Larry, so I, I I had another topic on there, but I wanted to add on this, and maybe you can do a double take. So supposedly as Flomo was pointed out, we had a projected 4.5% GDP growth. Um, but as Jimmy Flomo pointed out, that that number, we should look at it with a little bit of, skepticism, or with a grain of salt, that, based on its accuracy, and, based on what is put out and what we're seeing in the economy. And one of the biggest thing too is that we don't have our own economic data that comes out to say, okay, the World Bank puts out this data, but this is what we have on our own country as well. So, in addition to that, the international standard for with currently our poverty currently remain high at 35.4%. Um, I this is one number I want to push back on. I think it's actually higher than that. And the reason being because, you know, we have a caste systems where there's the wealth, there's money in that country, but it's circulated with, you know, it stays within a few select group of people. Um, what do you think? What do you think about that 4%, 4.5% GDP prospect? That whether we do did we achieve it, and if so, how do you think we achieve it? If not, why do you think we didn't achieve it? And also, how do you think that connects with this 4.5, 35.4% GDP in terms of the poverty rate? How does that relate to the poverty rate here? I know it's a little bit of confusing question,
No,
but hopefully
that's fine.
you can pick that apart, right?
Yeah, I think what Jimmy and Kesley said are so true. In fact, what Kesley just closed on is in fact the truth to the entire matter. Because you have the Ministry of Finance that is sort of being a player and a referee in the same game, right?
Mhm.
They're actually collecting the data and sharing it with the partners. They're actually collecting the data, and the data should be collected by ListGIS, right? Because that's what ListGIS is for. But it's actually being collected by the Ministry of Finance, and it's being shared with either the central bank when it comes to the performance for the entire year, and in some instances, that information is also shared with people like the IMF and the World Bank. But the problem is, and I think you touched on it, Gabriel, we don't have a true data collection mechanism, right?
Yep.
Because I don't care in business, in finance, I don't care engineering, no matter what it is, decisions are based on data. You collect the data, you analyze it, and then you make decisions based on that data. If you get the raw data, it's all facts, right? So just facts is telling you this and telling you that. But when you can take that fact and convert it into some type of information, then you can use that as a business intelligence to make informed decisions. But that's not the case. Like over here in the US, the Bureau of Labor Statistics collect a ton of information and share that to tell you the number of jobs being created or the growth in the economy. That's not the case in Liberia. All that stuff is all made up. It's all based on estimates and projections. And yes, where I can tell you that they've been wrong so many times, going back to 2006, when Madam Sirleaf came in, IMF World Bank data has been off because it's all projections. You can really fault them because administration after administration never took the time to really invest in a data warehouse, right?
Yeah.
World Bank comes out, make a prediction back in 2006, 2007, that the Liberian economy was going to grow at a certain percentage. Well, true enough, the fact that we came out of war, had the first election, investors were coming back, it was inevitable that the economy was going to grow. So it did grow, but then the financial crisis hit. And when the financial crisis hit, all of the projections that the World Bank put out, you have to throw it out the window because it was a global crisis.
Yeah.
So then again, financial crisis ended somewhere in 2009, 2010, probably went up to like 2011. World Bank puts out even more data. Liberian economy is going to grow at so and so level. And then what happens? Then by December of 2013, Ebola hits. Ebola hits, all the projections go out the window again because, again, we have an economy that is based on the extractive sectors. So when you have all of the people who come in to grab our resources leave after Ebola, the economy is going to crash.
Yeah.
Even though the U.S. pumped in, and when you go to foreignassistance.gov, you can pull the data down to see how much the U.S. pumped into Liberia because of Ebola. And the U.S. only did that because when Eric Duncan came to the U.S., he flew into Dallas and he passed away. It frightened people that Ebola can now transfer from Democratic Republic of Congo and all those places in Africa over to the U.S. So they pumped a lot of money in there, but it did nothing for the economy. So again, here we are, 2015, 2016. IMF goes out, make a huge prediction when we are, and his administration comes in. They were celebrating because IMF and World Bank says, the economy is going to grow at around 6%. They're celebrating. What happened, in fact, was they ended up with all this currency, that whole 16 billion fiasco thing.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
put that stuff in the economy, and there's a direct relationship. It's called the quantitative theory of money, right? If
yeah,
you put
yeah,
a lot of money in the economy, what's going to happen? It's going to lead to inflation.
Inflation. Yeah.
Inflation shot up to about 28%, almost 30%. So the economy didn't do too well. And then right at the time they started getting inflation under control, what happened? In March of 2020, COVID
yeah.
hit.
COVID hit.
Right? So all these predictions, they're not genuine because
Yeah,
every time you put out 2 or 3 years projection, historically, between 2 to 3 years, something happens. They put out prediction again, what happens? Now we have the Ukraine-Russia war. And then people found out that Ukraine and Russia puts out so much of the agricultural products out there.
yeah,
You think things are settling? On this note, real quick. So you think things are settling down? What happened? We have Israel, Hamas,
yeah.
and
So
now we
Hamas.
have the shipping routes being impacted because of what's going on in Yemen.
Yeah,
The terrorists.
yeah,
So to Cassidy's point, these predictions never pan out. They're
yeah.
all estimates because we don't have true data warehouse, and we don't use data scientists to make these predictions. So I don't buy into that. You know, the 30. I agree with you, Gabriel. I think the poverty rate is way higher than that because I think it's roughly around 70% in the rural areas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me say something real quick. You know, if you go on WFP website, the World Food Program,
Mhm.
you will understand that WFP projected currently at 64% of
Mhm.
Liberians live below the poverty guideline. 64%. And then
Mhm.
in totality, 1.3 million Liberians live in extreme poverty. 64% of the people live below the poverty line. But as on an extreme level, 1.3 million Liberians live in extreme poverty. So
Yeah,
what's the possibility of 1.3 million Liberian people living in extreme poverty, and then we want to believe some data that was taken from our government to the World Bank and the IMF to tell us that we have a projection of 4.5 GDP growth or 6% GDP growth. No, that data is wrong. That's a lie.
yeah,
Until we can have I'm telling you, that's a lie. Until we can have an independent body that will be collecting this data, that will go on the feed, that will go in the community out there
yeah,
to speak with people, to like leaders, until leaders, the functionality of leaders can be redefined, where
yeah.
leaders can operate on a total independency.
Mm.
Then we can say yes, whatever data that leader will send to the IMF and the World Bank or other or to our partners, then we can believe the data. But as it speaks, that data is a lie.
Okay, the reason why I laugh because you remind me of the former president when they asked her about. She said that's a bloody lie. that's a, that's a, that's a bloody that's a bloody lie. That's why when he said that's a lie. That's why. Um, quick note there. I agree with you guys on the data integrity. Matter of fact, I'm behind this group of guys to because so in the states there's there are these think tanks. There's the Broad Institute, there is the Brookings Institute, the Hoover Institute, the Heritage Foundations. All these are credible, especially the Brookings Institute. These are credible think tanks that run like economic data and projection on any aspect of research you can think about from that impacts our society, the economy. You go on Brookings Institute, you will find it. Unfortunately for Liberia, we don't have such thing. So the government puts out anything. There's not another check and balance institution you can go to say, okay, there's this think tank or this institution that actually does something similar that holds the government accountable or puts out these research that you know look at the future of our country. There's no such thing. So I'm actually talking to this group of guys to see if they can start these think tanks and actually do something like that. Um, since we have institution in Liberia, like the legis that you guys keep saying are supposed to do jobs like this, and we're not getting that from there. So, but that's just a side note. But anyway, let's segue into uh, the upcoming uh, presidency or administration. So we know that there is currently uh, a budget shortfall, and I think the poster boy or the other boy for the administration, Amar Kone, has been, sounding that brass on different occasions. First with the manager expectation, and then second with uh, the other comment that, hey, this, you know, we will not have enough budget for this 2024 budget year. And I think we talked about it on the last show where, currently, supposedly the first budget when it came out 2023 was 800 million, or if you round it up to 800 million. And then it just got recast in December to 759. So, yeah, 30 million short, right? Recast it down. This draft budget that is yet to be put out, as a draft, but we've saw the figures, is about 625 million. So if you go from 759 to 625, I think that's about 134 million, right? But if you do from 8 to 625, I think that's about 164. Now, the problem here is that we went from a 700 or 800 million dollar budget to a 625. The biggest problem here is that we are not having any more external revenue sources, which average around 150 million, right? So as you see, as you guys have been following the current delegate to Washington, they are in every MDB, the World Bank, the IMF. They're meeting with state in trying to shore up that shortfall, right? Now, whether that is going to happen, that is, your guess is as good as mine. But the bigger problem here, what do you guys think this shortfall poses to the incoming administration? The fact that there are no administration, there's a lot of expectation, hence why we're being told to manage. There's a lot of expectation, there's a lot of campaign promises that they made that everyone is now expecting them to do the Jesus type of miracle to walk on water. But here we are, they don't even have, you know, the they don't even know how to say the prayer, let alone be able to say that prayer for it to be answered for them to walk on water. So, what do you guys think this shortfall is going to do to this administration, at least the 2024 year? And how do you guys think that is going to play out at the end of the year with voter expectation, with the citizen? You know, pretty much the implication of the shortfall. What do you guys think? What are some of the implications this is going to have, Jimmy?
Well, they're going to have to start from scratch. Pretty much what Ellen had to do when she inherited the economy. There was very little income. I think
Mhm.
most of it was coming from maritime and maybe some extractive industries, rubber, Firestone. But you have to they have to look at it like they have to grow the economy
Yeah.
from scratch. Okay, so they have to look where we have um, skills now or resources now, and start right away and growing from that point, and try to uh, re, revisit tax structures because I've seen a tendency of just
Mm,
raising taxes by
yeah.
simply, and that's not always the best way to do it. Especially when you want to encourage growth and development, you reduce taxes on businesses. You let it go, and later on, they will pick up. And then I think also, I think they need to strike some bilateral deals where we can be relied upon to produce something, and in turn, we receive their produce. So I think they have to start from scratch and go from there. Give it back.
Okay. Kezali,
Yeah.
what do you
Um,
think the implications are of this budget shortfall with this incoming administration?
you
And
know,
what do you, if they even have any opportunity to raise it, where do you think their likeliest of chances are that they will be able to get it from?
you know, first of all, let me say this. We're making it to be when you say budget shortfall, let the common people just understand. It's called budget deficit. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, budget.
Yeah.
Budget deficit. That means that uh we have the budgets to be low. First of all, uh, on the economic side, what causes the budget deficit or the budget shortfall. You know,
Mhm.
if you look at the 2023 budget, which I got right before me, you understand the total adjusted revenue um came out to 782.9 million.
Mhm.
That's enough money for small country.
Right.
But then that revenue now have been used in different areas for different things that they cannot even account for.
Mhm.
Now, when you use your country revenue or you use your revenue on all sorts of different book up projects
Mhm.
that you cannot even account for, or you just write some paper and say, "Hey, this is what we do." That's where in the budget shortfall come in. Now, I'll tell you, budget shortfall can result to high level of borrowing. Yeah. Anytime you get budget shortfall, you won't go to your partner to borrow because you want to balance your budget. Now, and when you borrow that money, it comes with a what higher interest rate. Yeah.
Mhm.
And when it comes with a higher interest rate, as a result, it leads to what we call low reinvestment back in the economy, low reinvestment. Now we will resort to what we call a poor level of the economy, poor level of the
Mhm.
economy. Yeah. So first of all, let's just look at why do we have the budget shortfall? Because we allocating funds and resources to different projects that is not of significance to the Liberian people. And when you do that, you have budget shortfall. And at the end of the day, it will create high level of borrowing, high level of interest rate. Because when you have budget shortfall, you gotta go borrow money from your partner. And your partner not gonna give it to you at a lower rate. They're gonna give it to you at a higher rate. That is the reason why Liberia always getting high rate, high interest rate from the World Bank and the IMF and other partners because they want to let us know that we need to manage our expectation again. We need to manage our revenue, whatever we collect. We need to
Mhm.
manage it. If we don't manage it, we give you high interest rate. That's what happened. Yeah.
Jimmy, I mean not Jimmy. Larry.
So
Uh,
this, yeah. So
yeah.
this is
Go
a
ahead.
part of the conversation, and I like what Jimmy mentioned, and I like what Kesley mentioned. This is a part of the conversation where I think the point that people really need to pay close attention to because this is where so many underdeveloped, what you call, least developed countries in whether it's Africa or Asia, this is where they always suffer. First of all, the budgets are never realistic, right? So you have to start with a realistic budget. If you have a realistic budget, more than likely your budget shortfall or deficit will not be as bad as it's always been. If you say, for example, you're going to set up a budget for $1,000, when you work the entire month, you're not going to make more than 500. You don't have a budget shortfall of 500. Why would you set a budget of $1,000 when you know for a fact historically in January you never made more than 500? So the budget is never realistic. That's why they always have budget shortfall. Number one. The problem is, and what Kesley and Jimmy has been talking about. The problem is you end up in a cycle. It's like in America, we call it a turnstile, where you're just going around. You can't seem to exit. You can't seem to get out. You end up in a cycle where you cannot borrow money from I can't think of we call it supranational banks, right? The World Bank,
Yep.
AFDB, Asian Development Bank. These are all these kind of supranational banks. You end up in a cycle where you cannot borrow from anyone other than them. You end up in a cycle where you go and you borrow from the IMF, but the IMF gives you specific restrictions that said any other borrowing you do, it has to be on a concession basis. No country has developed using concession agreement. I haven't. If someone's seen it, please post it out there. Let us know so we can take it up. No country has developed using concession agreement. It's never worked. You can't keep borrowing money from the IMF and the World Bank and expect to develop because they restrict you. In fact, Gabriel, you're over in Ghana right now. Ghana was doing extremely well. Ghana had very good credit rating, sovereign debt credit rating from the big three, right? Moody's, Standard & Poor, and Fitch Investor Services, right? So they have very good credit rating. So Ghana can go to Wall Street and they could borrow money. They don't have to rely on the IMF and World Bank. And they were very restricted in terms of how they could spend that money. But what Kesley mentioned, Ghana didn't put that money into something productive that would lead to job creation and economic growth. So what happens is they end up in a situation where they borrow all this money. It doesn't lead to economic growth. People don't get jobs, and now they don't have enough revenue to pay back the money. So what happens? They miss the debt payment. They miss that debt payment, and now, like I said, they're in this circle. So now they have to go to the IMF for the bailout. Ghana has had 17 previous bailouts from the IMF.
Yep.
It goes to show this crap doesn't work. They're wasting their time. But everyone expects Ghana to keep borrowing. You see, they borrow a ton of money for free education. They were borrowing billions. I was seeing Ghana, put out a bond issuance of like raise money like $1 billion. I'm like, wow, this is impressive. One would think that when you raise that kind of money, you put it into something that would generate revenue, like tourism. Ghana started doing something on tourism, but it didn't grow. It got up to a certain level, but it didn't grow where it generated enough revenue to pay back the debtors. And now the fact that Ghana has defaulted, like what Kesley mentioned, when you miss payments, like what two of them recently did, they missed payments. When you go back to borrow money, the interest rate will be higher because borrowing money is all about investors will charge you interest based on the risk of you being able to pay them back.
Yep.
JMB coming in is going to struggle because Twe is leaving. I can't find a nice word to say, but he's leaving a crap show, right? He's setting like a booby trap. It's crappy. It's crappy. You miss debt payment, so your international partners warn you that because you miss debt payment, you're not going to be able to tap into some of that SDRs, right? So when they borrow money, technically they release what is called the special drawing rights. I'm not going to go into the explanation of the special drawing rights a little bit. Yeah. It's not too complicated, but I don't want to take too much of the time. The administration coming in, they better be fearful because now they're saying, like what Gabriel just mentioned, measure your expectations. The people's expectations are high.
Very high.
Yeah, they're expecting, like Gabriel said, for you to walk on water, for you to do all that stuff. You can't walk on water when almost 90%, and Kesley, Jimmy, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think almost 90% of the budget goes to recurrent expenditures.
Yeah.
You have very little room to put into those investments that will lead to job creation. What has worked? You need foreign direct investments. You got to bring people in from the outside, foreign direct investments. You also need to get your sovereign debt credit rating. Meaning you have to get credit rating so you can go to the capital markets and borrow money. If you don't do those two things and you're relying on just tax revenue and tax collection, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
So can I give you the good news before I turn it back over to you?
Yep.
The good news is Liberia has about 10 things, I would say, that is working in their favor that other countries do not have. 10 things that is working in their favor.
Wow.
We have an abundance of mineral resources that we can tap. We have fertile land. You can stand by mansion over there in Total Gabriel, and you can throw seeds out and something will grow, right? We have very good location. Why is location important? Because we have access to the seas.
Yeah.
You see why people like Guinea, you see why other people are trying to come and use the rail to get to the port of Buchanan? Other countries are landlocked.
Yeah.
Places like Lesotho, that sits in the middle of another country, they have to go through another country to get over to the sea. Otherwise, if they have to fly out of the country, it becomes very expensive. We have very good location.
Yeah.
We don't have very bad neighbors. Some of our neighbors are kind of shady because they cross away and they start doing gold mining. So, in addition to that, we have a young population. Thank you. Human capital. That means if we start to do something like construction that doesn't require a lot of technical skills, we have the labor force that will help the economy grow. So we also have another advantage. Most of us speak English, regardless whether it's colloquial or whatever. But other countries, English is not like the primary language. Yeah. So that means we can set up some of these answering services and answering centers in Liberia, just kind of teach the young people how to be able to, the same thing that's happening in the Philippines, in India, and over in China as well. We can do that stuff right there. Then we have tourism. Man, when I was down there with the chief of staff of Rudolph Giuliani, when we're down there, the guy was saying, "Oh my goodness, do you know we can just bring people in here in the yacht? They can go fishing. People would love to see some of what we have, like a white hippopotamus, a white elephant or something.
Yeah.
The potato waterfalls. We have all those things. That's a huge impact of tourism. And you know another thing? We have a huge expat. The number of Liberians in the U.S. creates a huge opportunity for remittances and foreign direct investments. There are so many things we have going for us. But over the years, administration after administration hasn't been able to tap into that.
Yeah.
Why? Because they bring in people who are not innovative, who do not follow the advice, like what Jimmy mentioned, what Kesley mentioned in terms of collecting data, what you've been mentioning. We don't have data warehouse or data lakes and any of that stuff. And they're very not innovative at all. We do have the support of the U.S. in terms of the foreign aid. So we have some good things going for us. But if you don't get foreign direct investments, if you don't get your sovereign debt rating, you can't access capital, you're not going to grow the economy, and the new administration is going to catch hell. I give them 6 months. If people don't see something tangible, people will start grumbling and complaining.
Exactly.
I got too much time, man.
Gabriel,
okay.
1 second. The big brother said something about how to teach or train the people because then we speak English. I will say this and I'm on the show. In 2020, I spoke with the president and I said, "Hey, this is it. We're gonna do this." Cause I work for U.S. Bank and I'm incorporated, so I share kind of the same flow with the CEO that I see nearly every day when I go to work. So I told him, I said, "Why is it that?" I said, "Look, I'm a man of connection. I love connection. I love communicating with people." I walked to the office. I said, "Andy," I said, "let's do this. Why is it that we paying people in the Philippines, in Guatemala, $12, $10? I said, "Do you know in my home country, if we pay people $5 per hour, and the fact that we speak clear and concise English, we speak English, we write English." He was like, "What? For real?" I said, "That's what we do. English is our primary language, even though we have our local vernaculars, but English is our primary language." I said, "You see me how I speak English, right?" He like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, great. Let's do this." He like, "Get the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling." Right away, I got on the phone with the president, and he said, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I said, "Great." He said, "But I will let McGill will call you." At that time, I didn't even know who McGill is. I said, "Who?" He said, Don't rush. I will let him call you." Couple of days later, McGill called me. You don't believe this thing, man. He asked me what in it for him. Can you imagine?
That's the mentality.
Can you imagine?
Yep.
And
So McGill call you and ask you what's in it for him.
He said he was going to call me back. Up to date, he never called me back. I said, "But I ain't talking about human being that can't be running behind you." I told the president, you are the head of state. Are you going to sit down? This will boost your government up. It will boost the economy up. All we needed was the outskirts of Monrovia, outside Monrovia, give us this acre of land. We will build a facility. Our modern day of the art facility was going to be built for US Bank. We're going to transfer our entire service center, customer service center. We're going to be right there. You're going to get thousands of Liberians working on different shifts. That's how we're going to be. You know what? You know how it's going to look like. US Bank pays 75% tuition for their employee. That 75% are going to be also given to those Liberians who are going to be working within a service center in Liberia. So we're going to take the contract from Philippines, the contract from Guatemala, because when you call those people, they don't even speak correct English. But guess what? You call a Liberian, that person, that girl or that boy going to be speaking clear and concise English. You know how that we got smart Liberians in all those small universities. They're all willing to do something. I mean, that's what I look at it, I say those are some of the reasons why the president lost the election. Because you're
Yeah,
going to bring those type of investment to the country. You know how that going to picture you to the Liberian people.
yeah.
Uh, at the end of the day,
No,
he didn't listen to me. But I want Ambassador Barker and his team. Now this is the time. It's still not late. It's just one phone call. I go to the office on the second. We get the ball rolling because if you
here's
have a credible government, we'll do it.
yeah, here's a bummer for you. You know, I don't want to poke air in your balloon and have all the air leak out, but I'm gonna do that. We are as kleptocratic as his government was. It was easy to get access to him. This incoming administration, I if you get close to the current incoming president toenails, please call me and let me know. That's all
That
I gotta
that
say.
that is a fact. That is true.
Let me put this comment out there.
That is
Let,
clear truth.
let me and please, if it changes, as I said, please do let me know. But I will hold on to that. There's a comment out here I wanted to share. So who is this? Is this hopefully I say this. Tupa Kwa
Qua,
or Kuya, right?
qua.
So I think Larry is referring to you
Oh
here.
wow.
So
Yeah. He says 95% of the budget as recurring
yeah,
expense. Wow. You see,
95%
what does
for
that
that.
leave to put into investment
Not
for economic growth?
nothing. Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Thank
One
you.
thing you
Thank
And he
want
you,
has a
to
Mr. Topa.
he
You know,
has
but
another
gentlemen,
quote
if
here.
I may chime in quickly, um, I think we're talking about symptoms, though. What we really want is why. Why? I think from what we're touching on it, why have we gotten ourselves in this position? Because it's all about self-aggrandizement. You know, you see the legislative salaries, yeah, you see the kind of benefits they're getting, completely unnecessary, and no one is actually investing in the people coming up. They see it from the point that is if they're getting what they want. The same story that Flume was telling you, I can tell you stories like that. And they don't
Yeah.
even care about developing the industry. They only
So
want to know what they get.
let me give you guys a quick story. Right. It's not even a quick story. I think this is something you guys are aware of. So I know we talked about Ghana going back to the IMF 17 times. Right now you enter this country, it's like massive infrastructure going on. Everywhere you go, there's development going on. Like the matter of fact, there's bypass places like shortcuts to get around those things, right? Within the next 5 or even 3 to 5 years or 10 years, you come here, this will be a maybe even further ahead, right? Now, in as much that they do go back to the IMF or these other multinational development banks, they're just like, and this is how every country is. We in a what we call a boom and bust cycle, right? Every companies go through that as well. There will be time where you'll be on a growth trajectory, economy take a downturn, you'll go down. But what companies and countries like this do, they look at the long term, right? So you go through an economic downturn, you invest what we call in infrastructure for country, and it's for companies. What they do, they invest in R&D, right? Because you're shooting for the long term. These things are going to pay off. If you invest in infrastructure, you know the long term is going to pay off. For a company, if you invest in R&D, you're not looking at it right now. You're looking at 3, 4, 5 years ahead, right? So that's what this country is currently doing right now. In as much that they're going through this mess that they're going in, everywhere you go, there's buildings here. Like, forget the infrastructure. There's buildings everywhere. People are just building, like hotels are popping up, right? I was reading an article on Semaphore News, right? They left. Matter of fact, they're even banking on the influx of diaspora in this country to boost their economy, to get them out of this cycle that they're in. That's how many people here. There is so flooded right now. Even to get a hotel at this stage, at this place, was so difficult, right? So they're even betting on that, the influx of people, right, to get them out of this economic rot. Not only are they betting on that, they're investing that money that they're getting from the IMF and all those people on major infrastructure. As I said, wherever you go, there's a lot of infrastructure projects here. So they're not betting on right now. They're in this route, which is where they are right now. But give them 3 to 5 years from now, you'll see what's going to happen. So, um,
And that's typical, right? Like you mentioned,
right,
you see that businesses run in cycles, right? It's
right,
cyclical. So you do
right.
see that. The one thing you have to hope for in Ghana, and the one thing you have to hope for in Ghana is that people have that level of patience
Yes,
to wait
yes.
until you move from that kind of recessionary cycle
Hmm.
to where now your economy is starting to pick up again and you start seeing growth. But we know Africans in general do not have that level of patience. When you hit
Hmm.
recession, they want to see action right away
Yeah,
because, look, I own some Ghanaian sovereign bonds. I own some Ghanaian sovereign debt. It's highly
hmm,
risky. They pay very high interest,
hmm,
but they have that ability to access the capital market. They can borrow
yeah,
that money. But you see, the one thing over here in a lot of developed countries, if you take that money, put it in infrastructure, these folks will end up putting a toll or something on that road.
yeah,
There will be a toll on that road to generate income to pay for that infrastructure bond, to pay for that debt. I don't know if Ghana has, I mean, how many toll roads they do have or how much revenue they collect from that. But that's something you can do in Liberia. That's why when I saw them go into the World Bank and IMF, I'm like, that strategy over the years hasn't really panned out.
yeah,
If you want to do like what Ghana is doing, you want to do, like what Liechtenstein managed to do, a little small country,
hmm,
the IMF, all these economists at the IMF, I can't think of some of the names, was telling Liechtenstein to enter the IMF Extended Credit Facility Program. They said no. They struck it out on their own. And today, the GDP per capita is one of the highest in the world, you
yeah,
know. So you got to change the strategy. Don't just focus on,
Thank you.
yeah, move on to
Exactly.
something else, man. Try to get your credit rating and try to see if you can talk to folks down on Wall Street to see if you can and talk to the expats, man. See if you can get someone, talk to Liberians in diaspora. See if you can get them to invest in the country as well.
yeah. And the thing about the credit rating that you talk about, right? I think people just think usually when you default, they just downgrade your credit. No, it takes a little bit longer before they even downgrade your credit. Yes, even though you might, okay, perfect example, Ghana right now. I think Ghana still sits at a BA rating, right? In as much as we know they defaulted. Because usually those credit rating agencies, Larry, you're aware of this, right? They would take time. They want to see whether this deteriorations in your ability to pay, it's something that is going to be sustained. If it's a sustained length of time, that's when they downgrade, the credit. So having that, it's a good thing. That's, and I think you keep preaching this message, and hopefully maybe you need a bigger church for for them to you need a bigger church for them to listen. It's a it's a great advantage to be able to access the credit market. But I don't know. I think I said this on the show the last time. It seems like not just the president, but the entire administration that comes in year after year, or election administration after administration, they forget the financial market and how important it is for them to catapult them to whatever
I don't
level
know
they
why
should
they
be.
do that.
Right?
You need money.
I don't understand that. All right.
And let me say
So
one thing, sorry to
yeah,
Kesley
yeah.
and
Go ahead.
Jimmy, real quick. So, look, getting your credit rating involves a lot of different things. I think for Standard and Poor, there's about 15 criteria to look at. It's similar to like the MCC scorecard, right? There's different things to look at. One of the things to look at is political stability, because the reason why investors are nervous about sovereign debt, if you don't have political stability,
Oh yeah.
if someone comes in and right away they said, hey, we're not going to pay this debt, all these investors are out of money. The money has to come from somewhere. The other problem is, based on what happened recently with the president putting these nominations at the 12th hour, what people don't understand is, I mean, he has the constitutional right. I tried to explain to the guys on the closing argument the other day. He has the constitutional right. But me, looking at it from an investment banking perspective, it's not good, because it makes people who would be interested in lending you money, it makes them a little bit nervous, because that can also lead to instability in your country. There are 15 things these people don't look at. They look at the stability in your country. They look at political, because if for whatever reason, they look at the judicial system, because if for whatever reason, I mean, look, Kessler, if I'm a banker,
Mhm.
and the finance minister in Liberia, and you borrow money from me, if you decide not to pay, the only place I can sue you would be in Liberia. And if you don't have a good judicial system, I stand very little chance of winning.
Yeah.
So I don't want to invest in your country if your judicial system is weak. But people don't see this. Everything in Liberia is all politics. Like someone guy said yesterday on the closing argument, he said, because I was telling them, I said, look, there are things that are legal, but they're unethical. And some people just didn't understand that concept, right? And one guy said, there is no ethics in the law.
Wow.
He said, there's no ethics in the law. And I was like, wow. The judiciary in Liberia has a code of ethics. So a lot of people just think that politicians are not supposed to be ethical. They're not supposed to do things that are ethical. They're supposed to kind of torch. They're supposed to torch the economy so the next person coming in can struggle.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
that's
man.
the mindset.
So why can't they stepping into a minefield? They don't know what Samuel Twain is leaving for them. I would be highly suspicious of what he's leaving in the wake of them.
Yeah. I don't even know how much we even have in our reserve, treasury reserve, Federal Reserve, but that's
You know,
a whole different story.
Gabriel, that question, how much we have in the reserve? Well, I can sit on top of my head right now, but this is just a quick statement, right? Um, how can we even have money in the reserve, or if we have money there, how can we have enough money there when we're having budget shortfall? Just, let's just look at it from that point.
Yeah, no, but the reserve is not something you touch.
Yeah.
Your budget is looking at your revenue to be generated and expenditure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I get
aside
it.
from what's in the bank, aside from what's in the bank.
I get it,
Right.
Jimmy. But the issue that this is it, right? Money goes in your reserve based on what you generate from the revenue, what you get from your revenue. Because every time you get money from your revenue, you have to put part and parcel of it within your reserve. But now, before you put it in your reserve, you got to also create your expenditure. You should know what you're going to be spending. Okay, so if you don't have enough money to spend, how can you put money in the reserve? It's the
Yeah.
reserve like saving.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah. uh, all right. So I think we're probably just over the hour here. Um, so I want us to talk about the implication of sanction, particularly on the Minister of Finance, but not just on just him, but on the various uh, individual who were sanctioned, like the Koji, the TRJ, the Miguel, and all the other uh, individual. I think there's total of 9 of them that were sanctioned. Now we know that the you know there's we can talk about the implication on that, right? But I want us to look at some of the investors' confidence, what that does to investors' confidence. I want to talk about what kind of risk profile it gives the country for people outside looking at the country. We also want to look at some of you know the, the Minister of Finance was sanctioned because of various reasons. One of it, he's being dragged into the HPX contract right now, where the government will eventually start. I don't know if they're going to go after that. They're going to fight for that 37 million, or the company is going to fight for that 37 million, right? So there's a level of sentiment, right, in terms of, I think Larry mentioned foreign direct investment, right? That implication that it has on the country, where your top, you know, uh, people in charge are being sanctioned left and right, and these are things that are out there. Let's say if I had interest in Liberia, I wanted to say I had interest in investing in Liberia. The first thing, I want to Google the country and see what type of people they are, right? So I want us to talk about some of the implication on these sanctions in the country on those individuals. Uh, and you can look
Well,
at it from different angle.
well, I'm not one to advocate, people, other nations governing governing our processes. But this is one time I think it will help Liberia because
Hmm.
we've developed this culture of impunity. And it seems because of the level of poverty in the country,
Hmm.
anybody who is capable, who's able to amass themselves some wealth, whether ill-gotten or not,
Hmm.
you they have no will. The poor, the impoverished people have no willpower. They have no backbone. They can't resist you, as we see
Hmm.
in the case with the Magibi elections.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've seen this now. They say these guys don't have the willpower. They don't have the chutzpah to come and go back against these guys. So what we're going to do? We're going to help them out. And so they have these sanctions on these powerful individuals. Let's face it, these people are powerful in the country. Another way of looking at it is that wealth is looking at it as power. These are powerful individuals in the country, and you and I could not do anything with them. Now, by sanctioning them, if we able to pursue these sanctions against these powerful individuals, it will begin to correct some of the situation where we're mentioning that the investors will have a different view, that now
Yeah.
they know that when people doing wrong, they are being punished, they are being pursued, they are being penalized. So this is one time I think it's I look favorable to foreign intervention in our economy because from what I'm seeing, we are so poor that we cannot fight these powerful individuals who have amassed themselves with wealth.
Yeah. Flomo.
Um, could you say that again?
So I'm sure you've been following. There's been
Yeah,
a slew of sanctions on very high ranking level individual in the government, such as the Minister of Finance, Miguel, I think TIJ,
yeah. JJ,
Koji, and
Nukwe.
Nukwe, and all the right. So if you can look at it on both side of the coin, right? You can look at it from a political side, and you can
Yeah,
look at it from the economic side, how it's going to impact the country, right? So, and you right now, you can speak from that on both sides, right?
you know,
But what I want us to look at is what what do you think that does to the confidence level of investors? Um, what, you know, risk, how do you think that have elevated the country risk profile to foreign direct investors or investments in the country? Or again, as I said, you can look at it from the political lens.
Oh, great. Let me say this clearly. If you look at it, the definition of sanction, sanction is carried on in order to curtail the behavior of people that we consider as people of prominence, of people of power, people
Uh-huh.
who use their power or to squander the wealth of an institution or the wealth of a nation. Now, with that being said, investor out there that want to come to Liberia, or even though the sanction now is considered an individual sanction, it's not like the nation is being sanctioned. Like during the days of Charles Taylor, where the international community placed sanction on Liberia. But now this sanction is not a nation based sanction; it is individual based sanction.
Hmm.
However, it has economic impact, economic implication on our nation, for the
Hmm.
fact that those people who are being sanctioned or who are impacted by the sanction are people that we consider of prominent, people who've been working in government, people who are still in government, and people who are being
Hmm.
re-elected or elected to government. Like for example, the a senator-elect Bill Traore, Nathaniel McGill, those people were sanctioned before they begin elected.
Right.
Now, you will understand that investors are going to look at that. But these people have been sanctioned before they were elected. Why did the
Hmm.
people elect those same people that have been placed in sanction? That is scary. It makes an investor to be afraid, be like, what? If these people were sanctioned and then their own people turn around and elected them to office, that means the country is loyal to those people. Simple, in simple terms. The country is loyal to these people. So what happens when we come in to invest? If anything goes wrong, that's their country. They ain't going nowhere. The people are loyal to them for the fact that the people elected them. So it has serious economic consequences to the nation. It
Yeah.
causes an investor to be afraid. An investor going to either pull for the country, or a potential investor will be afraid and be like, I'm not going down there to invest my money. Because guess
Yeah.
what? Anytime a government official squander the wealth of the nation and it gets sanctioned, the citizens of the nation elect those people. Those people get power. I'm not going there. I'm afraid.
Right.
So and let me say this: sanction is a good thing, and it infringes on the human right of those people. Human rights is a good thing, but now their human right have been infringed on because of their criminal malpractice.
Right.
Yeah. So it's individual. The sanction is individual. People may be thinking like, oh, it ain't got nothing to do with Liberia. It has something to do with Liberia. It
Right.
has to do. It looks at the credibility of our nation. Why? Because those people are people of prominence. They are in the legislature. They are
Yeah.
going to be part of the 55th national legislature. They are
Yeah.
people of
So
prominence.
let me add to what you're saying before I switch it over to Larry. So perfect example. So the HPX deal, right? This is supposedly an agreement between HPX and the government of Liberia. Well, these were, I think it was Mossadegh, Minister Twe, and I think the Minister of Commerce who signed that agreement, right? But now the government, because it wasn't ratified in the legislature, right? They're saying that it wasn't, it's not considered a contract. That's the argument we're having out there. Let's say we even have the audacity to say we're going to argue that in court to sue this company, right? Are we, even if we win, do you think, what's going to happen is that other companies are going to look at that to say, if we get into a contract with the government, what is a public private partnership, you know there's a high chance the credible people could execute those contracts on their behalf, and they could turn around to say those contracts were not executed by them, right? That creates a higher level of again risk profile on that country, which kind of keeps people at bay, you know. So Larry, I wanted to switch this back over to you. The sanction, I know you're you sometimes you go deep and deep into that, right? These sanctions that we've seen so far, we've seen those sanctions happen on those individuals, but not a single, not a iota of accountability or responsibility was brought down by the country on those individuals. So they kind of in a way kind of elevate their celebrity profile in the country. Some of them got elected, and but I wanted you to, to dissect the risk to investors and what it means either from an economic standpoint or the political side of things. And maybe you can thread that needle for us carefully too.
So if I'm on the side of the Liberia people or the JNB side, this is what I'm looking at, and I'll tell you it from the perspective like an investor. Look,
Yeah.
investors are interested in pretty much two things. Number one, will they be able to get the money back?
Yeah.
I don't care how you cut it. Investors want to know if they were to lend you money, are they going to be able to get that money back? The second thing is, at what rate of return are they going to be able to get that money? Because the rate they're charging you is based on the level of risk they're taking in that country.
They're taking. Yeah.
So you can, in fact, I think if you remember, there's a company used to be out here advertising called Reputation Defender, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
when investors are looking to, do that little deep dive into a country, I don't think the targeted sanctions would be much of an impact, because it is not like Russia, Iraq, Iran, or all these countrywide or Venezuela sanctions that we see. They're targeted sanctions, right? What the incoming administration could do, they can go out there on the different search engines. They can build a profile. So positive, they can put a whole lot of positive things out there about the country. When the search engine crawlers go over at night to grab new data, they will see all these positive things about Liberia. And when someone were to do a search, all those targeted sanctions people would be on the bottom.
Yeah.
How many people have done a search on Google or Bing and it went to like the third page? You only look at the first page.
You only look at the top, the top two,
the first page.
Right.
So if you put a lot of positive things out there, investors, when I see that stuff, investors rarely go and do a search for sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
No, they go and do a search of the political climate. They will do a search of Liberia, and then they will see what will pop up for Liberia. So if I put a lot of positive things out there about Liberia, showing tourism, showing stability, showing a whole lot of stuff, investors may not even see that, right? It is still there. It is targeted sanctions. Now, the new Foreign Extortion Prevention Act that came out on December 14th of this year.
Yeah.
That is a good thing for Liberia. I mean, I can argue from, whether Uncle Sam has the legal right to try to extradite someone from a sovereign nation. We can get into that other argument, from the legal side. I'm not a legal professional, but we can get into that argument. But it's a good thing in the sense that if you're going to accept bribe from a U.S. citizen or an individual to a government official or work within a government entity, the fact that the U.S. now is saying they're going to come for you and extradite you and try you,
that's good.
That is a good thing. What Boycott then needs to do, because the top guys would not let themselves get caught. They would usually let the foot soldiers go ahead and maybe sign the papers and do all that stuff. Now, we know here in the U.S., in the banking sector, we had things like the Dodd-Frank Act, right? The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act. We had the Sarbanes-Oxley. We had SOX. So as an executive in an investment bank, I had to sign off on a lot of the reconciliation between, whether it was the Federal Reserve Bank reconciliation or reconciliation we did with banks overseas. So if anything were to go wrong in that reconciliation, it's not so much of the people that were reporting to me, but I would be on the hook. So I have to make sure that stuff was correct. What they need to do is say, look, listen, If someone in your ministry is taking bribes, the minister is going to be on the hook. If the minister has been notified that someone in your ministry and someone in your office is taking bribes, we're not just going to come for that person, but we're going to come for the minister as well. Because if you don't have that thing where someone is going to pay the price, the minister will never sign anything. I noticed these guys, they never sign anything. They always pass it on to somebody else to do the signature, so you never catch them on the hook. So put something in place. What is legislation, executive order, doesn't matter. I don't care if the policeman out there on the street asking for cold water. The chief of police should be on the hook. You got to do something to minimize corruption in that country. Because, I mean, I'll say this, I'll close on this real quick. Liberia at one time was a middle income state. How is it? How is it that a country like Botswana that got independence in 1966, in 28 years, Botswana shot up to like a middle income state in Africa? We have the potential to be a middle income state where Liberians can build houses. Right off a lot of those rivers. In Marshall, different places in Liberia. You can build vacation houses out there. And ordinary Liberians, right now the GDP per capita is around $680, maybe $700, according to the IMF. Let's get that thing up to about $1,500 to $2,000, $5,000. Let's get some Liberian millionaires out there. We can do it. So the sanctions is a good thing, but the FEPA that just came out, it's even better. Because Matters Relief missed it. The Globe Mag came out like December 23rd. Obama signed it of 2016, I believe. Globe Mag came out. Then you had the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and now you have the FEPA that takes all three, and the incoming administration got to pay close attention because, look, I could do an over and under right now. Tell me, give me a name. Who you think would be the first person to get booked on one of these sanctions within the incoming administration? I don't
want to burn kind of my bridges. I'll make enemies,
You can burn yourself right now.
No.
No, I remain positive that Black Guy is not going to let his people then get exposed, or he's going to try to send a message out from the onset. If you fool around, I'm going to fire you. You're not going to come and embarrass my administration. Yeah,
I hope so.
But it's not just talk, right? If you work in a bank, Jimmy, you guys are all highly technical. You have to use technology to put things in place where you move from a cash system where people are handing cash out to automation, straight through processing, automation. You gotta do things a little bit different. Look, I was the disaster recovery manager for JP Morgan, right? So I had to think well in advance.
Oh, wow.
When the World Trade Center got hit back in 90 or 94 by the blind shake, we had to come up with a plan because, in fact, the Federal Reserve Bank told us, look, you guys cannot keep all of your server and your equipment in one location. We had to come up with multiple locations. So when 9/11 happened, people like Kenneth Fitzgerald, and I lost so many friends that I used to work with at Kenneth Fitzgerald, but they kept all of the equipment in that one building at the Trade Center. We at JP Morgan, we moved our systems to other locations around the country. And I used to travel there, come up with all these scenarios to test in case something were to happen, a disaster or something were to happen. They have to think outside of the box. I don't know if I was a technology guy that landed in finance or a finance guy that landed in technology, but I did both. I got degrees in both.
Live at the intersection of both. To be a disaster recovery manager, you got to be like a tech person too, because I know those are like usually like you guys are like some of the key people in the bank because there's something
it's more about policy though. Disaster recovery is really just a lot of policies, and of course you need a place to house the data, but it's got strict policy. The policy is what make it what it is.
Right. So let's say
real quick. Do you know one time that the World Bank put out? I think it was roughly $8 million given to Liberia. It was, I don't know if it was a grant or something that Amara Konan was in charge of to come up with a plan in case there was a disaster over in West Point. I can remember because I posted a question on Facebook and I was asking, what is this disaster recovery in case, because West Point is washing off into the Atlantic,
It
right?
is
Yes,
eroding,
and they're not
slowly
doing nothing
eroding.
about it.
And I asked that question, what happens, God forbid,
Moreover, get flooded. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a tsunami or something, because I think one time there was an earthquake off the shores in Liberia, but it wasn't significant. I said, what happened if there's a tsunami or something? What is this disaster recovery plan? And I can specifically remember, if you go on Facebook, you can search for it. The late Lawrence Randall, he was defending the Ministry of Finance. And I said, I'm not fighting with you guys. I just want to understand what is the disaster recovery. I don't think we have a plan for a
No,
lot of places in Liberia, just in terms of
We
nothing.
do
disaster
not.
recovery.
We do not.
Nothing.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can have a blackout just like this tomorrow. They did it. In fact, a hacker and put the internet out. It's there's a whole lot of stuff. There's a security thing, so you won't go in detail. But they don't have an adequate plan. We're depending on someone abroad. I can tell you that much.
And a lot of times we wait until bad things happen so the US can send money and rescue us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that Larry brought that up because I know very well it's something like that happened at the bank where I think it was a freaking snow, I don't know how long. And literally we had to get like text message. Some of us never really used to get text messages on our phone. They had to like do these calls to make sure that they could access us, and some of us were working from home. The whole, like you said, like disaster management team kind of stepped in and just took over. They had to, we had, like you said, we had our servers in one place. After that incident, they had to like, break it apart or put it in different places. So um, but that's a great question. In case something like that happened in Liberia, what's in Monrovia? What happens to the government? I mean, we're
The, the government will be shut
gone
down.
and buff and poof. That's it. Um, but anyways, any more
Look,
comment before we go to these
look at
comments?
look at actual factual comment that he just gave us now.
I was sending Sabu unit after that actual factual guy. I think that's the guy,
Yeah,
Gabriel, you say you're trying to figure out who it is,
yeah.
right?
I'm trying to figure this guy out, but I don't know who he is. He's like a mystery, like a rogue agent in the CIA. You can't figure him out.
See the
Um,
comment there? No, that's
yeah, he said disaster recovery plan would be to lay to lay document out in the hot Liberian sun to dry. Look, what happened with the ballot?
Ballot paper
Oh,
in
actually,
Grand Coup
he's
and
right. What
Sano.
happened with the ballot paper in Grand Coup or Sino?
It got wet when they put it in the
Yeah.
can, so when they reached there, they had to put everything apart and put on the sun.
that's that's
Oh, that's what he's
disaster.
referring to. Wow.
That's our
Wow.
disaster recovery plan. Put it in the sun, let it dry.
This kind of disaster recovery plan we call the manual plan.
Look what he said here. He said, "I'm just a lawyer audience. We will figure you out one day. We will figure you out. We'll trace your IP address and figure you out." Um, This is Lauren S. Payne. He said, "Good idea, but Buckeye is no different from we are always around criminals in the case of
And
Sabuka
I would say
Okoso."
no. I was not.
Have some faith in Boyka.
Yeah,
Man,
let me tell you why we should have faith in Buckeye. Buckeye is of the old guard. Buckeye was around when Toba them were had their government, all the ministries, everything was established. As we see in Liberia, normal days.
mhm,
Buckeye was around normal days. He learned. And let me tell you about another thing. You look at his records even when he was in high school, he was a very astute student. He was the recipient of
yeah,
scholarship. That's how he won the CWA. He's not no. I mean, he's somebody who's really pulled himself up because
mhm,
of his abilities. The only
yeah,
thing that if he's still able to perform at that level, but he's always been one of those ahead of the fray,
yeah,
and so we should expect more of somebody like that who has been through the system, understands the system, know what is normal, know what is not dysfunctional, and then has that the modesty, the humility to want to fix it and not only think about himself, because that was part of the problem, that they think
mhm.
more about themselves than the country. So we should expect that things will be different than we are.
Jimmy,
Okay.
I get it, but I would say, like I said earlier, the Liberian people should have an open mind. You know, no disrespect at all, but the fact here is that even though Ambassador Boaka has 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 had a humble beginning, you know, until coming down to be president of the nation, it's a good thing, you know. And let's just give it an open mind, you know. Let's give it an open mind. That's how I see it. Give it an open mind. It's not like I favor one person or not the other person, but I favor Liberia. Liberia.
Mhm.
You know, so at the
Yep.
end of the day, we give it an open mind. Even if it was different person was elected, but I would still give it an open mind, you know, until we can see what that person has done before we can come out and say something. Because sometimes you come and put your neck on the bowl, and then later on they call it from there because I'm being honest with you. Don't put your neck there, put it choppy. You know, when you get caught up, then you can't say nothing
It's
again.
your emphasis on the word. That's what I'm laughing at. You cut it from there.
Yeah, they'll call it from there. So wait
Yeah.
and see. You know, I'll say this. Don't you gotta go hunt first.
Mhm.
The type of animal you're gonna kill
Mm.
before you can go buy the type of net to call it. So
Ah,
yeah.
that's
Don't go
deep.
buy one small little net, then you go now you kill elephant. They put a net that'll call the
You
net
never
break.
can call it anything.
You can't call it. So wait here first. You catch the animal before you can determine what net to cut it
What
with,
depth do you
to use to
touche
cut it.
it? We got you.
You
We
know,
got you.
yeah, and I mean there are some of the old guys still around Boaka, which you can see it,
Yep.
some of the old people. So until then, and looking how Boaka came to power, you know, it's just a whole lot of stuff. You know, the papi was not like worth it, rich with money, you know, and those same people that came around, the same people that pump it in, you know. So now it's what we talk about credibility and whether you will stand free and say, even though you put money in my campaign, I don't care. You know, if you do something dumb, I will fire you, I will dismiss you, and I will send you for prosecution. You know, because sometimes
Well,
the people that give you water to drink, when that president does wrong, you kind of like you want to hold back. But if you stand firm, say if you give me water to drink, but man, this thing you want to be in it together, you got to be of credible. You got to be credible. We got to work together for the common good, Liberian people. You mess up, I will fire you, and I will not only fire you, I will send you to the Justice Ministry for prosecution. You know, I
that
hope
would
you
be
don't. Yeah,
that would be
yeah, we
yeah,
hope that be.
that would
You
be
know, yeah. So that's where
yeah.
I'm coming from. I say, wait, don't put your neck on the bowl because those people they pump money in the old man campaign. So we'll see whether the old man will stand firm if any of them mess up.
That would be a good idea if we can see something like that happen.
Yeah.
Um, so who is this? Tobai again. He said, I suggest labor-based work that requires at least technical skills for the youthful population. Roadside cleaning and drainage cleanup. Um, is that is that um is that technical work though? That's not technical skills though.
No, you said the least, the
Oh, the
least.
least. Okay.
Yeah, and I totally
Oh yeah,
agree
the
with
least
you.
technical skills.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
Right.
can't
Yeah.
bring in technology and all that stuff. I
Mhm.
don't think the roadside cleaning can be part of a broader tourism initiative.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of customer service, tourism, construction, some other, like he said, least technical skills that just require manpower,
Mhm.
those are the things you have to invest in right away and put the young people to work because
Yeah.
the population is growing at a rate of over 2% per year.
Mm.
If your economy is not growing at 3 times that rate, you're in fact putting more people in
In
In the
poverty.
street.
poverty. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 100,000 people per year is being added each year to the population. So you do need family planning.
Yeah.
I remember one time someone had mentioned to me and said, "Oh, we don't have enough people. The population is not growing fast enough in Liberia." I was like, I think you're wrong on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need family planning. That young population of young people, they're growing way too fast. Monrovia cannot handle them. We've seen the overcrowding in Monrovia. But I want to say something. I saw something over here from Tukpa as well.
What is it?
Just
Which
like
one?
30 seconds, he talked about Liberia, ArcelorMittal, and Firestone. You know, it kind of reminds me of a question you asked earlier, Gabriel, in terms of investors. When investors see the executive order that we have initiated, I think it was Executive Order 124, something he did in terms of suspending rubber, that's not good. I'm not sure who advised him to do that, but that's not good. But is Firestone still owned? I thought Firestone was owned by the Japanese company, Bridgestone.
Yeah, it's got transferred now. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Why are you doing? They're so silly. They thought that by doing that, they were hurting an American-based company when they suspended that whole rubber thing. I was missing
That's
something.
how clueless. Yeah.
Because Firestone is owned by the Japanese
It's
firm,
owned by
Bridgestone,
Japanese.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Go figure.
Unless there is some kind of agreement between the Japanese and the American to say, hey, I know
Maybe.
you've been, to protect it, but you're right, it's owned by the Japanese. So you say you're hurting, you kind of retaliated against the American. And I remember I say you juke. Yeah. Let me see another one here. They said this is Lauren Payne again. He said it's a good idea, but boycott is okay. We read this one already. The actual factual again, the mystery individual. Disaster recovery plan will be okay. We read this one. Okay, I think pretty much this is it. This is all we have.
Yeah, that's it.
This is it. Let me see. This one from Emmanuel. He said the economic implication, poor economic performances of CDC, sanction against certain official will be good. Will be a goal
It goes
a
slow
goal
for investor.
slow for investors into JVN administration. Let's see his first 100 days. I agree with this Emmanuel here. I think people keep saying this. The selection of the cabinet will give a good indication of
You-
what this
Yeah.
administration was going.
let me say this, right, Gabriel. I see he put 100 days. From the theocratic point of view, I would say that
Theoretical point of view, right?
yes, 100 days. I consider 100 days to be what we call a new governmental table of content. Yeah, that means to say that the 100 days is the time that the new government will be putting their table of content together. What they intend to do within the 6-year period is putting that establishment together. And my advice to Ambassador Bwaka, your cabinet should be a cabinet what we call a merit-based cabinet. Let him put a merit-based cabinet together. When he put a merit-based cabinet together, I think he will do something better.
Yeah, that's if or when he does. But I would say if he does.
Right. I want to agree with Flomo. The first 100 days is just an assessment, and it's just enough chance to assess what is there, and maybe begin to formulate your plan on how you will approach it and attack it. But what I really want to see, who will be the economic, because like Larry was alluding to and Flomo, this is going to require somebody who knows how to think out of the box. You can't just say I'm going to borrow from IMF or whatever. That has not worked. In fact, I was reading another report. Countries become poorer when it stops. It get worse off when borrowing from IMF. So it's going to require someone with that wherewithal to know how to really stimulate an economy. And this person, a person who's like this, is usually in the private sector.
Yeah.
It's not somebody who's been in government all along, because you don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So
this is in as much as
Jimmy.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Let your thought before I come in. Go ahead.
Jimmy, let me say this, right? Whoever Ambassador Bwaga going to be appointing and to subsequently be confirmed by the Liberian Senate as Minister of Finance and for Economic Development, I think if we have somebody that will be credible, and also uh, don't forget the Central Bank of Liberia, the governor, because both the Central Bank of Liberia, I believe that in order to have a balanced economy in Liberia, we should have a good central bank official, and then we should have a good finance ministry officials, because not just the finance minister, you have the deputy, you have the assistant, and also to that of the central bank. When you have a good central bank team and a good Ministry of Finance team, or what we call the Ministry of Finance and Economic team, we can see us gearing towards a prospective economic future for Liberia. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I was, I the same. I don't, without trying to drag this thing along. The same thoughts you guys have, and I have the same thoughts as well, right? Like if you even look at the pool, so there's two key people I think that I don't see anybody within closer to him that he could put in it. One is the Minister of Finance. Two is the central bank governor. Um, you know, well, then again, you can look at. Now I know Larry said he want to. He doesn't want to go to war to go step on a landmine. I,
That's a
I,
movie trap.
how you want you don't want to go to war. You want to go to war, but you don't want to step on a landmine. That's some of the risks you got to be willing to take, Larry. That's you're not being a good soldier. But on a serious note, right? If I would, there's two people I can think about the central bank. Either Dr. Syed, who used to be the former Minister of Finance, who's at the IMF right now, or I would say maybe Paul Larry at the central bank governor. For Minister of Finance, I would say hmm, maybe you can put Molu there. Maybe he'll be able to do a lot of cleanup to be bold enough, but they're going to fight him tooth and nail. Because the central bank, I think, as Flomo pointed out, right? Like, and I think perfectly as Jimmy pointed out as well, you got to put somebody there who hasn't been in government, somebody who had private sector, who needs to grow the economy, and
Yeah.
that at the central bank, that's where you can have that. As I always like to tell people, it is like you're pretty much up there with the president, not to compete, but mostly in terms of impacting economy and making sure there's jobs within the economy. Like that is your sole responsibility in keeping things. Um, so those are I think the three people I can look at. But again, I'm not very versed with the people that are around me, but what I've seen so far, I've seen better cabinets that are Kia than what I've seen around him so far. So um,
So there are three problems, right? Oh, I'm sorry, kid. I don't know if you were done.
no, I'm done. Yeah.
So the first problem is the guy who is at the central bank right now, he's in a 10-year position. So they can't easily get rid of him without paying some fee or something. They can't easily get rid of him. The problem was putting him in that position in the first place when it's such a challenging role. The central bank is meant to stabilize the economy. It's meant to keep inflation low. It's meant to grow the economy. In fact, it's meant to put together monetary policy that will lead to job creation. These are the true, and it's meant to be independent of the guys on the fiscal side. That's never happened, right? People will trust your economy if they know the central bank has independence. So you have two major challenges, right? You have a central bank that has someone in there in a 10-year position you can easily get rid of. I know they managed to get rid of Nathaniel Patriot when he was there. He was a disaster because he came to the first thing he said was, I'm going to run the central bank at the whim of President Weah. That's not how central banks work.
Yeah.
When you put the printing press, because the central bank has the authority to print LRDs, when you put the printing press in the hands of politicians, they would think that they can just go ahead and start printing willy-nilly. Because I mentioned it yesterday. We saw this happen in Zimbabwe. We've seen it throughout Africa where politicians will want to print as much money as possible, and that leads to inflation. So you have an issue at the central bank. And they're the ones who are setting up the monetary policy to grow the economy. On the fiscal side, the people who are collecting taxes, paying the government bills, and doing all that stuff, this whole business of HPX that came up The problem with that is it was in the budget, in fact, the 2022 budget, but people didn't pay attention to it. So that whole HPX thing
I
comes in.
think Dylan
Yeah.
talk about it. Dylan talk about it though.
Oh, Dylan spoke about it. Okay.
Yeah.
You see, that's why I like Dylan, because he does his research. He would bring things to the floor, and people need to follow him as well. But people should have acted upon what Dylan said, because the finance ministry was trying to do like a double. They were trying to eat from both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
They were trying to eat money from ArcelorMittal, at the same time trying to take money from HPX. And when I mentioned HPX the other day, supporters of Tue started making all kinds of excuses for him, because I mentioned, and you guys know on this show, I've been talking about Michael Cheng, the former finance minister from Mozambique, who was cutting side deals. He had this tuna boat scandal. He was cutting side deals that the government wasn't aware of. He had a $2 billion scam that almost bankrupted Mozambique. Now the U.S. grabbed him, and he's on trial over in New York. And I heard some, one of 12 buddies that say, "Oh, I know, Mozambicans. I'm familiar with them." I'm not sure what that person was arguing, but it had nothing to do with the fact that this guy ran a secret deal.
Scheme, right?
Scam. So what was this deal with HPX? And I don't think the sanction Tue because of the HPX. I think it goes all the way back to the Crow report in that mop-up fiasco, right? I think that's where it went to. Look, anybody coming in any of these positions, Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, they have to come in with some innovation that will lead to job creation, lead to foreign direct investments, lead to the ability to have a credit rating so you can borrow money. Liberians deserve to enjoy that country. I mean, I talk to professors in Hawaii talking about building homes in Liberia, and I'm like, wait a second, this is stuff that other Liberians in the diaspora should be doing. But a lot of foreigners control our economy. Liberians do not benefit from it. They control the economy. And it's so sad, a country with so many opportunities and possibilities and resources. We have a GDP per capita of $680. It is pathetic. Look at Singapore have passed the US. GDP per capita. They did that during the financial crisis because they didn't invest in mortgages as much as the US. Singapore is just a rock. Hong Kong is just a rock. They don't have resources. They managed to pass us and left us smoking in the dust. After 80 years of borrowing, not borrowing, of foreign aid just from the US, 80 years, it's on foreignassistance.gov. And when you guys I'll build a dashboard and show you the data. We've collected over 15 billion from the US in foreign aid over the past 80 years, which amounts to about 187 million or so per year.
Wow.
What do we have to show for that?
We got nothing to show for that, man. Not a single dime.
High infant mortality rates. Women are losing their lives while giving birth. It's so sad, at a higher rate than other countries.
No electricity, stable electricity.
We're in the top 5 when it comes to people dying from road accidents. Not so much of the accident itself, but the treatment after the accident. And, the whole thing. Look, folks, it's 5 o'clock. I got to go run some errands. 5 o'clock Eastern time, I got to go run some errands.
Any final thoughts here? You got to run?
Suggesting that I should, take that rope. But for me, it would be a massive sacrifice. And I don't know if I'm prepared to do that right now.
Don't worry. Well, if, as I keep saying, if you're going to war, sometimes you got to expect not step on land, not only to step on landmines. Sometimes you get hit with a stray bullet,
and like the Chinese,
a rocket will just hit you and take you out. You gotta sacrifice something. That's,
and like the Chinese strategists. The Chinese strategists, it's a required reading for executives, right? The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The Chinese strategists, you have to know what you're walking into. If the enemy is kind of laying some landmines from you, don't walk through that minefield.
But Ellen Johnson said one thing, and every time that thing, I heard what you just said, Larry. And every time that I hear that thing, it goes to my mind, because there was a time I told her I can't afford to go back to Liberia when she became president. Right. But she says what she observed is that we are very transient. That's the word she used. In other words, we don't stay in our country. We don't put enough in our country. And
No, we do
and
not.
that may be part of. There's a brain drain. We're aware of the brain drain. We're aware of all these things. And then and then if the people who have the resource, the land, and what the land is the potential resource there, and you're not developing it, aren't you part of the problem? I mean, I think about it all the time. Aren't we part of the problem? If your best is leaving and not giving back, does that not make us part of the problem?
Don't mind Gabriel sitting here. He's a bank executive. He's a bank
Hey,
executive.
I'm not saying I don't want to go to war, but I think if I want to go to war, I would think the same way Larry thinking, you know. I
But
don't want to
look,
go
you got
step
to
on the
build a financial
landmine.
sector. Get people like Gabriel. You get the engineers over there. You get people like Cassidy who also work in bank. For me, I would be willing to go and train the young people. I want to pass the knowledge on to them so they can do the work. Because if I train as many young people, if you get as many Larry Kennedys, or many Gabriel, or many Jimmy, or many Cassidy in there, as opposed to me going to do the work, you can scale that, right?
Yeah.
It leads to more development at a faster rate than one
Right.
person coming to do it. So I would be willing to go and train a ton of people.
Jimmy, let me tell you this. It's not like we don't want to go there, but our security matters. The physical security and the job security. You leave a good job here, you go down there, somebody put you to some office after a year.
And fire.
When you're not performing to that expectation, meaning that now you're feeling or you don't know the job, but that expectation for you is that back so-called thing or cutting deals or doing this, but you want to do it to the book. Want some money, you get some text message. They're not even doing it professionally. Some text message. So somebody gonna fill that position. Then you come back to America. You start all over. Huh?
Yeah.
No. If the security for the job is there, it's your physical security matter, and people are working based on credibility, you can say, you know what, I'm gonna go there and we're gonna do it together. But in America, yeah, nobody gonna fire you except now you be irregular to the job. You're not going to work on time. You're not doing your job at all. You every day you call out of work. You call out of work. That's the only way to fire you.
Yeah.
But like, bro, you don't need to call out a job. They will fire you some money when you're not doing what. They won't break good. They'll fire you. You have to pack a little suitcase.
And
You can't wrap that. Then you start doing some. In fact, you'll be in like, start doing application for you to come go for interview again.
It is what it is, man. But I think
I'll be honest with you.
overall,
So don't say we want to give back. We want to give back, okay? If I said they didn't give us nothing, we hustle for it. So when we go in there to give, we're giving it at our own risk. So no. Yeah.
Thank you guys. I think this was a great conversation. This was a year-end review. There's so much that happened. We didn't even cover not a quarter of it, but hopefully you are able to take away something from here. It was great having you guys. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up from here?
I'll send you a text. Did you see it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No. But go ahead. Anybody with final thoughts?
Yeah, just be optimistic, and I just hope they focus on expanding the private sector. Nothing else is going to save Liberia. I don't care how many hospitals they build. I don't care how many schools. The thing that will save Liberia directly, a direct investment, is expanding the private sector. And whatever the formula they got to come up with, they better come up with it to do that.
Let me say that. Thanks once again. We're not gonna come back here now until the new year. That is next Saturday. But happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year to our Liberian people back home and in the diaspora. It's a great opportunity to be on the show. Today was a great one. But I would say this: we were talking about the budget and the budget shortfall or budget deficit. I have 4 key issues here, or which I would consider as a remedies when it comes to how can we eliminate budget shortfall. One is it my advice to Ambassador Banga's government that is coming in place in order to reduce budget deficit or eliminate it, we should create what we call cap on government spending. Cap. You cap
Mm,
it out, you say, hey, this is it. We're putting this money to this place. It's cap up. We're not going to go above it. We're not going to go beneath it. This is it. And then
okay.
we should reduce the salary of high earners. Those people in the legislature, they're making too much money while the common people are suffering. Yeah. So they themselves should begin with themselves and say we're going to reduce our earning, not the common civil servant. Reduce your earning first. High earner should be reduced. Three is reduce discretionary spending. We should be able to reduce discretionary spending. And then the fourth one is reduce other mandatory spending. Yeah. Because when you do that, we won't be running every day to the IMF, the World Bank, because there will be sufficient and surplus funds that some of those funds will be transferred to our national reserve, So that's my opinion. That's my view of how we can eliminate, because we can't just talk about budget deficit. We can talk about the causes of the budget deficit without coming in with suggestion as to how then we can eliminate or reduce budget deficit. So those are my key points of how I believe we can reduce budget deficit. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then lastly, Ambassador Barker, you got a couple of wish to inauguration. Our hope and admiration for you. As a true patriot to Liberia, you should please form a cabinet of merit. Please, cabinet of merit. Those people that will be able to serve as your able lieutenant in the discharge of your function, in delivering the expectations of the Liberian people, because the expectations of the Liberian people are very, very high. And to my Liberian people, please give time to this new government. 100 days are not enough. 365 days are not enough. 2 years are not enough. Please, let them work for you gradually to your deliverance. That's it. Thank
You're
you.
crying more than a bereaved, my man. Thank you.
Let me say something real quick. I think you see what I'm about to say is based on the comments I'm seeing, and I like what Actual Factor just mentioned and what Marshall just mentioned. I think the administration should have a town hall, right? Like a global town hall. Bring a lot of Liberians onto this town hall where they would have a chance to kind of make some suggestions, like what Marshall just saying, things to kind of focus on. Because if someone like that is interested in doing some business in Liberia, but they're having issues at their Freeport, these are some of the things that the president can say, or the president-elect can say, look, in 100 days, we're going to tackle something like this, make it possible for people to get the stuff over there in Liberia. There's some low-hanging fruits right now in terms of getting money. Do you know how much money LISCA actually collect, the maritime actually collect for Liberia? If you ever sit down, and this was something that I went through all of their data, because it's actually published on, I think it's the Department of Justice website. They collect a ton of money. So there's opportunity there as well. And we can try to get the maritime being operated by Liberians. But I think just having a town hall, bringing Liberians in there to hear some of these recommendations and suggestions, and people that are taking notes, putting that in some sort of a database that they can start working on in 100 days, I think that's a great opportunity. So, next year, maybe we open it up and talk to people who are interested in doing business in Liberia, bring some of them on this show, and let's talk to them and see what are some of the things we can kind of flesh out, So
yeah,
man,
that's
you
a good
guys,
idea.
you guys have a wonderful and blessed and safe new year. And to all, and Nita Forsberg, I really appreciate the recommendation and the suggestion, something to consider. My brother Emmanuel Jackson, as always, you've always been a strong follower of Focus on Liberia and the marketplace. And Actual Factual, I love all of the comments out here, but I pray that you all stay safe and stay blessed. And Gabriel, Godspeed with your travels. And when you're coming back, bring me some doku. Jimmy, stay safe, bro.
Yeah, all right, thank you. That's if they'll let me get through with the custom. That's the problem. All right. Guys, thank
just
you.
like I was a dry meat or some bush meat, because they were throwing it away.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, guys, it was a good time having you
All right,
guys.
guys,
Great
stay safe.
discussion. Happy New Year's and see you
Happy
next
New
week.
Year, Nita.
Ciao.
Yeah.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Ilẹ̀ USA all we want. Liberia. Ilẹ̀ USA all we want. Freedom in Liberia. Oh, Liberia. Family, we